the reception, a glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. At her feet was a footloose man. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, well, you might find you get what you need. And I went down to this demonstration to get my fair share of abuse, singing words gonna vent our frustration. If we don't, we're gonna blow a 50 amp fuse. Sing it to me. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, well, you just might find you get what you need. The Chelsea drugstore to get your prescription filled. I was standing in line with Mr. Jimmy. A man, did he look pretty ill? We decided that we would have a soda. My favorite flavor, cherry red. You can't always
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife.
I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA.
From the lakes of Minnesota
to the hills of Tennessee,
across the plains of Texas, oh, from sea to shining sea.
From Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless this country. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless, please bless you.
Just around the corner, there's a rainbow in the sky. So let's have another cup of coffee, let's have another piece of pie. Trouble's just a bubble, and the clouds will soon roll by. So let's have another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie. Let a smile be your umbrella, for it's just an April shower. Even John D. Rockefeller is looking for the silver lining. Mr. Herbert Hoover says that now's the time to buy. So let's have another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie.
God gave you 100,000 watts of power, but it's up to you to put them to work. This is the John Adams Radio Show. Coming to you live from high atop the EMR Tower in beautiful downtown Decatur, Georgia, center of the known universe. Thence, 23,300 miles directly into outer space. This week, affiliates SATCOM 5. Thence rebroadcast all across the fruited plain to our vast EMR radio network. This week, 331 stations plus.
That's just the way it is.
The island of Guam.
But don't you believe that?
Speaking directly into the golden EMR microphone, this is Excellence in Money Radio.
Said, hey, little boy, you can't go where the others go. You don't look like
And we're glad to have you along
said, hey, old man,
on this special edition
did you really think about it?
of the Real Estate Coffee Break.
That's just
I remain unbossed and unbought,
some things are never.
speaking truth to power,
That's just the
and committed to truth, justice, and the American way of making money. Hi, everybody. John Adams here with this very special edition of Real Estate Coffee Break. Guess what? I'm not here. Many of you know that Margie and I have been involved in rehabbing a rental house that we bought. It's an ugly duckling here in Glenn County. This is our first foray into the mainland, although all of Glenn County, could be argued, is sort of affected by its proximity to the ocean. It's a different world down here. Anyway, I had to meet my contractor and inspector Saturday at 11 a.m., which is what it is right now. So I decided to pre-record this to get this important information to you. If you will go to the website libertyrea.com, that's libertyreia.com, and sign up, you'll be able to download the detailed outline of my presentation today. And I think you'll find this very helpful at whatever stage you're in, whether you are just getting started in real estate investing or you've been doing it 50 years like like I have. And I think there's probably on this call everybody in between. But I'm so glad to have you here. And please stay with us, because this is going to take just about an hour. Okay? Here we go. I am first going to well, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to just calmly, I think I can do this, put my cursor here. I've never done this before. Let's see if this works. Control Enter. Boy, it sure does. How about that? Okay, you know who I am. My name is John Adams. I am a real estate broker. I am an investor. I'm a landlord. I'm a property manager. And I'm an Eagle Scout. And I think of all those, probably Eagle Scout is the most important one because I am trustworthy. A scout's word is to be trusted. And I'm not going to give you information that's untrue. I'm going to give you information that's actionable by the average American with average education and average resources. Although I know people with below average education and no resources, but had incredible persistence and determination, and they've succeeded as well. What I'm about to outline is a proven system. So many of you know me from WGST Radio. Many of you know me from the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, where I wrote a column every Sunday for 20 years in the business section. And many of you know me from Fox 5 in Atlanta, where I appear bi-weekly on the Good Day Atlanta program with Buck Lanford. And from time to time, I'm also their contributing expert on residential real estate. So they drag me in sometimes for news stories. Our goal today is to provide a practical system for identifying, acquiring, and transforming distressed properties into cash flow assets. And I know some of you are focused on flipping, and I want to point out that flipping is very expensive. The taxes on flipping are so ridiculous, and the way to get around that is to rent the property, and that's exactly what we're planning to do on Black Horse Station. Now, I intentionally have not given you the street address because I don't want people knocking on the door and that type of thing. But Black Horse Station is the name of this project. It's in rural Glenn County, and they finished the project today, so I've got to be there tomorrow to meet the contractor and the inspector to make sure we're done. And I wanted to give you a practical system for a buy and hold acquisition program. Remember that real estate investing, it seems, if you've ever watched some of these home shows, it just seems so unrealistic. That is not an accurate depiction of how things work. Things don't always go perfectly. They do in television, but they don't in the real world. And you and I are in the real world. But real estate investing certainly is achievable with the right strategies and the right mindset. And these are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. I know there are a lot of fears about rehabs. People say, I don't have any construction knowledge, John, or we're worried about mold or methamphetamine or all kinds of things. But I just want to reassure you that these can be overcome with knowledge and resources. And that's what we're going to try to give you some of today. Okay, so let's move right on down and talk about part 2 here, which is identifying undervalued properties. I recommend that you become familiar with Redfin. Okay, Redfin is similar to Zillow, but I like it better for several reasons. One, and I think Redfin may be owned by Zillow, and I don't understand why they have two of them, but for a while they were separate. In any case, I mean, they're still separate programs, and they offer a lot of the same thing, but Redfin does a couple of things that Zillow does not, and here's what they are. Number one, they allow you to have detailed search parameters like show me anything in DeKalb County, Georgia, under $100 a square foot within 60 seconds of it coming on the market, or there's any change in the listing. That's pretty good. Zillow does not use dollars per square foot as a parameter, a search parameter, and you can set up and save these search parameters in Zillow and in Redfin that will focus on your target property, and when that pops up, you'll know about it within seconds of it going on the MLS. So that's a good thing. I think Redfin's search parameter and instant notification feature is better. The second thing I think is better is that Redfin accepts for sale by owners. Now, Zillow used to, and technically they still do, but they work so much with real estate agents that The agents complained about the for sale by owner. They didn't want that competition. And let me tell you something, after this realtor settlement, and this is, everybody's confused about commissions now and what's going to happen. I'm telling you, the paradigm of the realtor world, I believe, is going to change in the next few years. When you're selling houses for $1 million a pop, and that's what they sell for on St. Simon's and more than that on Sea Island, you can't get a 7% commission. Nobody's going to pay you $70,000 to sell a house, when the reality is most buyers find the house they want to buy on the internet, and then they just call somebody and say, help me buy this house. And I know because I've experienced it personally. I'm not saying that realtors aren't valuable, and I am one. And I think they're extremely valuable. I just think with today's inflated prices, and by the way, I don't see prices coming down anytime soon. I don't see prices coming down at all. Inflation is the way that government works. Did you hear what I said? Somebody write that down. Inflation is the way that government works. And the Federal Reserve has a target of 3% inflation per year. And between that, and of course we're always above that, the target, I think the estimates for this year are typically between 4.5% and 5% appreciation. Add to that the appreciation we get from making the right decisions and managing the property wisely, and I think it's pretty easy to get in the neighborhood of 9 to 10% appreciation a year. And if you and I do that, the property doubles in value every 7.2 years. That's called the rule of 72. You need to know about that if you don't. Okay? I'm not going to go into it today. But I do like Redfin. I encourage you to take a look at that. And you can set up instant email notifications for new listings that meet your specific criteria. And you ought to plan on, during the day, and I'm assuming you have another job. I'm assuming you work at a print shop, or you are a stockbroker, or you're an attorney, or whatever. And like all of us, you have a busy day. I'll need you to set up 15 minutes or so during your lunch hour, when you'll be able to review your notifications from Redfin and follow up on those. They wouldn't notify you if the property didn't fall within your search parameter. So take a look at that. I think you need to focus on properties with cosmetic issues that are going to scare away most buyers. What are we talking about? The paint looks awful. The grass is 5 feet high. The landscaping is overgrown. One of the things I always look for is, are there trees growing in the gutter? That's one of my favorite things to look for, because if this house has trees growing in the gutter, it means two things. It means, one, that gutter is full of dirt and grit and so forth and garbage, which means the gutters are going to fall off soon and there's structural damage about to happen to the house. And the second thing it means is that the owner has no interest in the property. Otherwise, somebody get up there and clean that gutter. And so look for houses in very poor condition. You're all familiar with home vestors. Home vestors, and you ought to look them up on the internet. They invited me to be the keynote speaker at their international convention a few years ago, and it's because I'm so impressed with their system. And they say, we buy ugly houses. And the phone rings, which is unbelievable. You wouldn't think somebody would call up and say, hey, I have an ugly house. Would you buy it? Because it is really damn ugly. I'm telling you right now. I mean, okay, so that's what happens. And they go out there and they make a lowball offer, and the person takes it. And a lot of realtors are sitting around saying, well, that won't work. That's not the way we operate. We want beautiful homes. Okay, more power to you. I want a house that smells bad. My preference would be a house that had a dead animal in the house who was just rotting. I bought a house one time that had a dead dog on the floor in the living room. The heat was off, the water was off, and it was well below freezing, and this poor dog had froze dead, but was in a state of decay, and it emitted an odor that was not to be believed. I have a whole story on this I'll tell you another time. But the point is, nobody else would go into this house except me. I just held my nose and I went in, and I saw that there was nothing wrong with the house. I mean, it was ugly. It needed a fresh coat of paint, but structurally it was good. It had a new furnace. It had been rewired, had hardwood floors of all things, new roof, and the foundation was good. There was just a dead dog there. So since then, and that was 40 years ago, people have accused me of carrying a dead dog around with me in a plastic bag in the back of my car to put into empty houses to lower the price. That's not true. I have never done that, but I think it's an interesting concept for some of you. So anyway, look for things like old listings or foreclosures or REO, which means these are properties that have been foreclosed, nobody bid on them, so they went back to the lender, and now the lender wants to unload them at a discount. And trust me, there is pressure on FDIC banks to unload non-performing assets, and that's what a REO is considered. They will not try to rent it. They're just going to sell it at whatever price they can get. And I would bring to your attention the idea of driving for dollars. If you've got a target neighborhood that you have zeroed in on, and it's 400 or 500 homes, which I think is a very good target market for you and me. I'd like 600 to 700, but I'll take 4. And I think on Saturdays, or Sunday after church, you ought to set aside an hour just to drive around and see what's going on in your target neighborhood. I call that driving for dollars. And you'll find deals. I'm just telling you. I don't have time today to tell you the stories, but it has happened to me again and again and again. Listen to me now and think about it later. Okay? The deal of a lifetime in real estate comes along about once a month if you're constantly looking and ready to take action. The problem with most of you people is you're not ready and you're not looking. And you're saying, well, John, I can't find anything. Interest rates are too high and these prices, I don't know what I'm going to do. You got to be ready to take action. You got to be ready to act. And you have got to be looking constantly because things change in real estate on a minute-by-minute basis. Let's move to the next point. We are looking for a seller who is highly motivated. Okay? So what are seller motivations? We want a seller whose primary goal is not to get top of the market. Their primary goal is to get done with this house. This house that we just bought, Black Horse Station, it was the weirdest thing, and it's just, this is, I guess, typical. But it was a family, a multi-generational family that owned this house, and I guess there was a husband and wife, young couple there. He was pretty handy. But what happened was he had a regular daytime job as a landscape contractor, which is fine. You can make millions of dollars in landscaping, and I guess he was doing okay. But he would start these projects, like he would start painting the interior of the house, but after one room, he'd run out of steam. And that project, he was done with that now. Then he would start something else. And then they took this, so help me, this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and for some reason they decided they wanted to combine those 2 bathrooms into 1 bathroom. Talk about stupid things that people do. But they combined these 2 bathrooms into 1 and replaced one of the showers with a jacuzzi. And I can only assume that the wife wanted a jacuzzi. I don't know that to be true. But anyway, The first thing I did when I saw it was I said, holy mackerel, all we got to do is build a wall down the middle of this big bathroom, and all of a sudden we'll have 2 baths. Which has more utility? A 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 3-bedroom, 1-bath? Okay, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath is, I would say, marginally functionally obsolescent. And what that means is people don't want a 1-bath house anymore. People want a 2-bath house, and they'll pay extra for it. And that's why I'm always on the lookout for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house where I can, even at some level of expense, convert that into a 2-bath house, because that adds a lot of value to the rental, and it adds a lot of value to the sale price, if I'm ever going to sell, which I don't, because I hardly ever sell. Okay? So let's talk about seller motivation. One of the things you need to do is discover the seller's true motivation. We found out on this particular house through the agent who talked too much that they had a real problem with the house, and it was becoming unlivable. The floors were rotten. There was a lake under the house. They didn't know why. The water wasn't right. The septic tank was backing up. It had all kinds of problems, and they couldn't figure out what to do to fix it. They'd run out of money, and they just wanted out at any price. Well, thank you for that bit of information, Miss Listing Agent. That helps me guide myself in functioning, in creating an offer that will be attractive to these people, because their primary motivation is not getting top dollar. In fact, I found out from the agent they'd already had 2 contracts that were at very good prices from an investor standpoint that had fallen through during inspection. There are a lot of so-called investors who will bring in an inspector who will say, well, I wouldn't buy this house because, you're going to have to do something to that pump, and you got a septic tank. I just wouldn't buy it. An inspector and an attorney's job, they are paid to say no. See, they have no liability. If they tell you no, don't do this, and you don't do it, you can't sue them. But if they say, yes, this is a great deal, go ahead and do it, and it doesn't turn out, then theoretically you could sue them because they gave you bad professional advice. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just simply saying you have to become the final arbiter of whether you want to do this deal or not. Anyway, the house has gone on the market for $125, went under contract overnight at $125. The inspector comes out, shoots it full of holes, and the buyer withdraws. It went back on the market this time at, I think, $95,000. They really wanted to sell. Bingo! It went under contract. The investor sends out a inspector. Inspector trashes the house, and the buyer walks under the inspection contingency. And I had been following what was going on, and I had been in touch with the agent, and I said, if either of these fall through, let me know, because I'd like to make an offer, and I promise you, once we make an offer, we will not back out. I won't make it. If I can't make an offer, I won't. But if I do, we'll stand behind it. So at that point, she called me and said, Mr. Adams, we have in 3 days been through 2 contracts. Are you willing to make an offer that you'll stand by? And I said, yeah, I need to come out and see the house. She said, come on. So I got out there and saw that there were some problem areas that would need to be addressed. One of them is we got a lot of water standing under the house. That's not good. The other is it's on a well and a septic tank, and there's nothing wrong with those. I'm just not familiar with them. I've never owned a house on a septic tank or a well, and that was not an area of my expertise, so I was a little worried about that. But I thought, I called some people, what can it cost? 5 or 6,000 for a completely new well, and 8 or 10,000 for a completely new septic system, including the drainage, whatever those things are called. So I went out there and I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm willing to make, they wanted 95. And I think they actually had dropped it down to 85. And this was the recommendation of the realtor at that point. And they're asking 85. And I said, I'm willing to make an offer of 80. But I have to have the house inspected. She said, well, you said you wouldn't. I said, I know, but this house has more things going on than the average house does, and I just have to have an inspection contingency. She said they will not accept it because it's lost 2 times. Mr. Adams, make an offer of any amount. Just don't include an inspection contingency. I offered $72,000 and they took it. That's a pretty good deal. That is a pretty good deal. I mean, the numbers, these are not the exact numbers, but that's pretty close. And I'm thinking, you know, this house, a 3-bedroom, it's going to be a 2-bath house in this area, ought to be worth 150 to 160, and they're offering it to me for 72 or 73. So we went ahead and bought the house cash with no inspection. Immediately, I brought people out there that knew more than I did about wells and septic tanks. The well guy said, you need to spend a couple $1,000s here on a new pressure bladder or something. I don't even know what that is. But I'm thinking, that's chump change. The guy that came out for the septic, I didn't even ask him to. He went ahead and pumped it and sent me a bill for $400. And he said, Mr. Adam, I got down in there. I'll tell you right now, ain't nothing wrong with that there septic tank. That's a good tank right there. Now, I can't tell you about your drain field, but I went ahead and pumped it for you because that's the first thing's got to happen. So it's good right now. I recommend you just start using it. And when it fill up, if it don't drain right, you call me back. And I said, well, what's the worst case scenario if I have to replace the drainage field? He said, oh, we can probably do that for $3,000 or $4,000. And I'm saying to myself, that's chump change. Buy the house. So I got to feeling much better about it. Anyway, this is why the seller's true motivation here was not to get top dollar. They wanted to sell the house. But see, you'd have never known that from the listing. If you just looked at the listing, they were asking $125, which is a pretty good deal in and of itself, but not for that house. And the other 2 contracts had beat the price down. And I was able to come in. Also, I didn't have to have any financing contingency because we were able to buy it for cash. Now, you're saying right now, well, John, I don't have that kind of cash. It's okay. It's okay. There are a lot of different ways to raise cash, and we'll talk about that. But a couple of strategies I would just mention real quickly are, had there been a mortgage that was subject to on this property, I could have tried to take it over. That's called a subject to deal, and we're not going to go into a lot of time on how to do what's many people call it a loan assumption. It is not a formal loan assumption because loan assumptions aren't allowed in 99% of mortgages without the permission of the lender, and they're not going to do it. So it's more profitable to them to start over. So my point to you is, if you do try to take over a mortgage payment, you need to be prepared to pay that off if they threaten to foreclose. I don't think they will, and I've never heard of a situation where they did. But if you catch up the loan, let's say they're behind on the payments, which typically they are, you catch up the loan and start having regular monthly payments. So the loan is now, as agreed. They don't have mortgage police down in the bottom of the bank. Let's say you're making a bank payment to Bank of America, And there are no mortgage police down in the basement in the mail delivery system saying, hey, here's a payment from John Adams on this house in Glenn County. He can't do that. They don't care. As long as the payment has the account number on it and clears the bank, they are happy. And as long as they are accepting payments, which in my experience has been until the loan is paid off, they can't foreclose on you. Now, if they decide to foreclose on you, which they might, why would a lender foreclose? Well, let's say you took over payments on a loan at 30-year loan at 2.875 with 28 years left, and they think they could loan that money to me now at, as an investor, probably 8.25%. That's a lot better than 2.875. So they might threaten to foreclose to get me to go in and agree to a higher interest rate. My response is always, if you want to foreclose, go right ahead. They have to give you 30 days written notice. Then they have to advertise the property for 4 consecutive weeks in the legal newspaper of the county where the property is located. Then on the first Tuesday of the following month, they have to hold an auction. And up until the last minute, you can make a tender offer to pay off the entire mortgage. You can ask them to reinstate, but if they refuse to reinstate, and by the way, I've had good luck reinstating, if they refuse to reinstate, until the last minute, the day before the auction, you have a right to go in with a certified check and say, I'm paying this off. You can't stop me. Now, where are you going to get the money? You say, well, John, I don't have that kind of money. Call me. I have that kind of money. You have financial friends in this world. And one of the things you need to do as a successful real estate investor is cultivate relationships with people who are mortgage lenders or people who would like to become your partner by becoming the money investor while you found the deal and you're going to run the rehab. See, 50-50 split. That's a pretty good deal. Okay? So I'm just saying, you know, there are other things. The other thing you might do is talk to the seller about owner financing. You know, most times when you ask a seller, would you consider owner financing? They're going to say, no, I don't want to have to, I'll be dead in 30 years. I'm not, do I look like a bank to you? And you need to say, no. I need 3 to 5 years. And I'll tell you what, let's do this. Mr. Seller, may I ask you what you're going to do with the cash that you get? If you get, let's say you got all cash, what are you going to do with it? Well, that's my business. Well, I'll bet, Mr. Seller, you're going to put the money into a bank CD. Well, I might, because that's safe. Okay, what are they paying now? Well, I have no idea what CDs are paying, but it's probably 3 to 4%, I guess. I don't know. But if you're going to put it into a bank CD, and you're telling me it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, and that's wonderful. I'm an Eagle Scout. How about if I gave you 6%, twice what you're going to get, twice what you're going to get. I'll give you 6% interest. I will pay you every month 0.5% of what I owe you. This is going to be interest only for 3 years. And then I'll pay you off, or I'll have to, I want to have the right to extend it for 2 more years at 8%. And then I guarantee it'll pay off or you can foreclose on the house. And I will post the house as collateral, and you're going to get these checks every month. Well, how do I know I can trust you? Well, if you'd like, your attorney is here. I will agree to make the payments every month to your attorney's escrow account. And if I'm a day late or $1 short, he will notify you and you can begin foreclosure immediately. That's your attorney, not mine. Well, I might do that, but I have to think about it. Trust me, you're a lot better off getting 6% than 3%. And, whatever. I believe this. If you make an offer and you're not embarrassed, you've offered too much. You need to cultivate the discipline to make an embarrassing offer, because I'm telling you, people will accept it. So if you make an offer and you're not embarrassed, you've offered too much. Let's move to the next chapter here. Real quick, this is number 4. Building your professional team. This is so important, and this is not a comprehensive list. But let me just talk for a second about who some of these team members are. I think your real estate agent needs to be a great real estate agent who understands what investors are looking for, and somebody who's hungry. We're talking about maybe 1 in 100 licensed agents. Let's look at me. Licensed agents are trained to be focused solely on commissions. They are discouraged by their brokers from investing in real estate deals because the commission becomes negotiable at that point, and the broker just wants the commission because they get 50% of that, or whatever the cut is. You see what I'm saying? So your typical real estate agent may say, "Oh, I am into this. I know all about investing. I've listened to that John Adams guy for years and years. I know everything he knows. Taught him half of it." Yeah, fat chance. How do you do this? Call a real estate broker's office anywhere in Metro Atlanta, a large office. Ask to speak to the broker and say, "Hey, Mr. Broker, my name is John Adams. I am a real estate investor. This is something I've decided that I want to do to build net worth and monthly income. And I've got substantial assets. And by the way, one of your assets is your desire and your determination, and that's substantial. So now you can honestly say you have substantial assets, and you're looking for a real estate agent in that broker's office who has had experience in locating, negotiating, getting under contract property suitable for renovation to rental level, and has actually participated in some of that, and has some experience in actually doing it, not just reading about it. Out of 100 active agents, that broker may have 1. And it's just because investors are from Mars and agents are from Venus, and they are focused on commission. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a real estate agent. I've been one for 50 years. So they can be compatible. It's just that most often they are not. And so you have these real estate agents who are what I call big hat, no cattle. And they want to talk about investing, but when you finally say to them, "Can you show me some of your rental houses, or do you have any apartments that you manage, or what are you doing?" "Well, I'm doing nothing right now. We got a recession on and had that pandemic thing. I mean, I don't know." No, they never did anything. Big hat, no cattle. You want somebody with a normal hat who has substantial experience with cattle, because the cattle are residential real estate rentals. That's what we're looking for. And I would continue calling large offices until I found somebody. And you can have these people get paid if they find you a deal. So you can say to them, "I will not participate in the commission during the purchase. And as part of my agreement with working with you, if I decide to sell within the first 2 years, I promise I will list it with I'll list it with you wherever you happen to be. That's a pretty good deal for an agent. So they're making a commission going in, and there's a real good prospect of a commission going out. And furthermore, if they know how to manage property, you'd love to have them manage the property and get paid monthly. Most agents won't have anything to do with that because they don't want to do management. They want to get that big sales commission. So anyway, the real estate agent is vitally important here. You've got to have a contractor, and they're not easy to come by. I recommend that you go to several Home Depots and Lowe's. They are not supposed to do this, but if you take a piece of paper and write on it, my name is John Adams. My phone number is 404-373-6000. I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for a handyman style contractor who can perform the following tasks, converting a house into a rental. And you want somebody that does sheetrock, light electrical, light plumbing, roofing, carpentry, window repair, kitchen detailing. Did I say painting? No, okay, painting. They need to be able to do all of this because you don't want to have to call a licensed electrician every time you change the outlet. The house you buy probably has some broken outlet covers, and you can go get them at Home Depot for 60 cents, and you can put that on yourself, and there's only one screw, and it's nowhere near anything electrical. Turn off the power, put that electrical plate cover on, and all of a sudden it's repaired. You don't need a licensed electrician for that. Now, if you have 20 amp service to the house and the wires are all knob and tube, which you probably have never heard of, you need an electrician because that needs to be performed. There's a difference between maintenance and major upgrades. And we want to stay at the maintenance level to the extent that we can. I got into a fight one time with a plumbing company. They charged me $197 to light a pilot light. I will admit that it was over Christmas weekend. Every contractor I'd ever used said, "John, we out of town. We can't do it this weekend. I'm sorry, man." So I finally called so-and-so over in Decatur, somebody in Daughters. I don't remember who it was, but he had so-and-so in Daughters. So I called them up and I said, "Look, I'm an investor. I need special pricing, please." "Oh yeah, we'll take care of you on that. That's no problem at all. I'll go over there right now and light that thing up." And it was $197 to light a pilot light. Now, in my younger days, I would have done that myself. But this shows the importance of having handyman-style contractors. And you need to start a Rolodex or a spreadsheet of handyman contractors that are willing to work in the area where you want to own houses. So you can go right down the list. And if one person says, "I can't do it," you're going to the next one. If you will go to Home Depot and Lowe's and list all of these things you may want done and leave it with the manager of the pro desk. Every one of these stores has a pro desk. They deal with contractors all morning long. Contractors get there at 7:30 in the morning. They all buy their stuff, throw it in the back of their trucks, and they leave. The other thing that I am not above when it comes to finding a contractor, I will drive around the parking lot of Home Depot and Lowe's, look for beat up panel trucks that say "Discount Plumbing Company. We beat any price." and you can tell they haven't bought a new truck yet, never try to use a contractor who drives a new truck, because somebody's got to pay for that truck, and it's going to be you. Okay? Contractor. Begin making a list of everything you might want done, and it's the usual suspects, trust me. You need to talk to a hard money lender, and I need to do a program on what hard money lenders are. So we'll talk about that another time. But you need to look up, just go to Google and put hard money lender Atlanta, Georgia, if you're in Metro Atlanta. And then go talk to those people. Find out what they do. You need a tax advisor. Every CPA in America believes that they are sufficient and knowledgeable and experienced enough to handle your tax return. That's fine for other people. It's not fine for you and me. I want an accountant. It doesn't have to be a CPA. I would prefer it to, but if not, that's okay. There are a lot of good enrolled agents now who specialize in working with investors. In fact, there are accounting firms in other parts of the southeastern region who have clients in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky. See what I'm saying? So you want somebody who deals exclusively with real estate investors. Now, in addition, you want an attorney. You want a closing attorney who works with investors. Now, this is a little bit weird because whatever lender you're working with, they're going to require that you use an attorney that is on their list, and that's because in a traditional real estate closing where there's a new loan, the closing attorney represents the lender, not you, even though you are paying for it. You heard me right. That's correct. And so we need to find an attorney who all day long closes real estate transactions and can get on anybody's list overnight. And there are firms that's all they do. Now, that's not the attorney you want for your landlord-tenant law or for your lawsuit defense, but we'll get to that another time. I think right now you need a closing attorney who is very experienced with GAR contracts and residential closings. And when they say what kind of closings, say Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA. And if they say we close those all day long, say if you ever closed a owner finance, a 5-year on-demand interest-only note with collateral of the property, if they say sure, we do that all the time, you're in the right place. Okay? There are other people. I think you need an appraiser, and that didn't even make it onto this list. You need an appraiser who is not scared of a rehab. And we need to talk more about that. You need to be able to call your appraiser and say, I need you to, don't even drive by, just do the homework and call me back and tell me what you think this house might be worth based on Google Street View and comparables that you find in the neighborhood. They can do that in 30 minutes, and it shouldn't cost you more than $150, and that $150 should be applicable toward a full-blown $500 appraisal if you decide to convert to that. You see, they've already done most of the work. They just didn't have to visit the property, but they've looked at them. That's one of the great things about Google Street View. So you need a team that is responsive, and you need a team that will communicate with you. And by the way, because the real estate agent is the one who is adding, think of an analogy with a gold mine, and you've got these trucks that are just dumping in loads of dirt, and there's a microscopic amount of gold in there, but you got to have a lot of dirt to go through to get to these little pieces of gold. Well, there's no reason you can't have 3 agents or 5 agents or 10 agents that are contacting you constantly saying, hey, I found this house and I think it might be right for you. And you're saying to me now, well, John, aren't they all going to bring me the same properties? If they do, tell them they're late. Tell them you already know about that one and you already have an appointment to see it. And they'll go, oh, how did you find out so fast? Well, not only are you looking for me, I'm looking for me. And this came to my attention. That's a true statement, even though another agent brought it to them. They just didn't move fast enough, did they? Okay. So, last but not least, we're going to talk about, here we go, acquiring, I can't get this to go down. Acquiring properties with no cash. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You need to read a book by John Schaub, Schaub, called Building Wealth One House at a Time. John is a great investor. He's a great teacher. And you can buy his book used on eBay for $5 to $10. But you're looking for a book by John Schaub, Schaub, John, John, and it's called Building. I'm looking around to see if I have a copy. Now, I don't see one. I know I've got 5. Okay, I can't find them now. Anyway, I get a copy of his book. It's a short read. You can read it in one afternoon or a couple hours, and you'll come away with a boatload of ideas. But you can work with wholesalers. You can create partnerships. You can work with hard money or private money. There are a lot of people who, if they trusted you, would be happy to loan you money to acquire and rehab these properties. Some want a cut of the action. Others just want the interest. And trust me, if you work with these people one time, they will insist that you continue using their money. They don't want it back. They want the interest. There is a possibility of using your self-directed IRA or self-directed Roth 401k. There are some very specific rules and guidelines. We can't get into that here, but I'm putting together a course soon on the safe way to use retirement funds to invest in residential real estate. And I think you're going to like it a lot. You should right now go to Google and enter into Google how to use retirement funds to invest in residential real estate. There are some real great tax advantages there. We'll talk about that another time. And one thing you can do is you can flip this house. If you bought it, got it under contract, and it wasn't right for you, or you didn't have the money to complete the deal, you can call other investors. You can call me and say, John, I got a great deal on this property, but I don't have the money. Would you buy it from me for what I paid plus $5,000? If it's a good enough deal, I am happy to do that. So don't let a deal go because you don't have the money. Find an investor who does. You ought to have a Rolodex of investors who say they have cash. And remember, the same people don't always have the same amount of cash. Sometimes they're flush. Sometimes they are invested up. Okay? So, but flipping is very expensive tax-wise. Last but not least is key actions for success. And you've heard me talk about this so many times, kids. There are 2 things that you've got to do to make money in the real estate business. Number 1, you've got to see a lot of houses. And by viewing numerous properties, what you're doing is you build a comparison database, if you will, in your brain. You know, right here between your ears, on top of your shoulders, you've got the most powerful computer that God has ever created. No AI will ever be able to match you. But you've got to put it to work. And the way to put it to work is building this comparison database in your mind. And this knowledge base allows you to quickly recognize and confidently take action when a good deal arises. Remember what I said when we started? I said the deal of a lifetime comes along about once a month if you're looking and ready to take action. That should be your takeaway for today. Number 2, seeing a lot of houses is not enough. I've had plenty of people go through all of my training and they come back and they say, John, I've seen 500 houses. I still haven't bought one. They are suffering from the paralysis of analysis. No deal is going to be perfect. Okay? And you've got to be prepared to walk away from them at any time. But you're going to need to make a lot of written offers. And if you aren't comfortable writing offers, and who is today, the GAR contract that most agents are looking for is 40 pages long, which is insane. And when I started in this business, granted, it was very shortly after the Spanish-American War, but the point here is our contract when I started at Barton and Ludwig was a single page front and back. A single page front and back. That's a lot easier to understand than 40 pages. So you need to be very skilled in writing offers. This is an area where your real estate agents that you have hired to help you find deals can earn their commission because they are trained on how to write these things. And then you need to run it past your closing attorney because they see a lot of contracts and they ought to agree to review your contract for nothing if you agree to use them for the closing. How safe is that? The core principles today are these things. You've got to see a lot of houses. You've got to make a lot of written offers. I'm not talking about verbal. I'm talking about in writing. And remember that you're always looking for a seller who is highly motivated. This says desperate. I'm not sure that's the right word. I've certainly bought from people who were desperate to sell, but there are always more sellers who are highly motivated than you might think, and you've got to make a written offer in most cases to uncover them. That's our time together today. I'm so proud you were able to be with me. Just think of me right now. Those of you that are praying people, go ahead and pray right now because we're meeting with the contractor and the inspector out there just to make sure everything's finished properly. But I have very good confidence. And next week, I'll have a lot of pictures for you. If you have questions about anything we've talked about today, please don't hesitate to send me an email. You can go to libertyrea.com. That's libertyrea.com. And there should be a button there that says contact. And there should be a place that says, send this email to John. I read every one of them, and I can't answer everyone, but I sure will try to do the best I can to help you along your way in any way possible. You guys are the best, and I think we should get some traveling music going here because that's the 3.0 Mark IV, the John Adams Radio Show. And this is John Adams reminding you, your financial future is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. Make your choice a good one. So long, everybody.